Hi, I'm Old Norse specialist Dr. Jackson Crawford. The other night I was hanging out with my boys, Carl and John, and Kimmel was on, and the thought occurred to me that this would be a timely occasion for a video about witches in Old Norse, and particularly a little known story from the Eddika Minora, or Minor Eddic poems, about a dead witch and the spells she casts to protect her son from his evil witch stepmother. Now this is a poem called Grógaldr, Magic Spells of Gróa, and it is not preserved in any medieval manuscripts such as the Codex Regius, from which most of the poems of the Poetic Edda are drawn. For that reason, it's not always included in translations or editions of the Poetic Edda. For example, it's not in the currently printed editions of my Poetic Edda translation. But there are reasons to think, even though the oldest manuscripts of it only survive from the 1600s, that it is in fact at least medieval, if not pre-Christian in origin. The language is consistently archaic, certainly from the perspective of the 1600s, even really from the perspective of the 1200s. And the language and meter, the Ljóðaháttar meter, much like that in Hávamál, is also consistently correctly applied, suggesting someone working natively within that medium. Now, the poem is preserved together with a sort of, I don't want to say sequel, but an installment in what was probably the same series is probably more like it. It's as if we have Batman Begins in Grógaldr, and then this following poem called Fylsvinnsmál is sort of like The Dark Knight Rises, and we're missing the Dark Knight somewhere in the middle. What exactly happened in the middle installment is a little bit hard to say, but probably the journey alluded to in Grógaldr is completed in that second poem, and then it's in the third poem that the object of the journey, the woman Menglóð that our hero Svipdagur is seeking, is finally reached. Now, sometimes you'll see these two poems printed together under the title Svipdagsmál, meaning words of Svipdagur, after the young man who's the son of the witch is kind of the hero of the two poems. But again, I think that's kind of misleading, because it makes it look like the two follow exactly on each other, and it really doesn't look like they do. Again, it looks like there's sort of parts 1 and 3 that are missing a part 2. So in this poem, what it looks like, and this is actually very similar to a medieval Danish story called Yngens Fidal, which probably comes from the same source. In fact, the name Fidal's blood, derivative of Svipdagur. It's also very similar to an old Welsh story, which is an interesting parallel, given, of course, that the Icelanders were pretty well in contact with the Celtic world. But it looks like what the background story is this boy Svipdagur. His father has remarried after his mother's death, and his evil stepmother, a trope already in Old Norse times, wants him gone, so she casts a spell on him that he cannot marry except to this woman Menglóð. Now, Menglóð is an awesome catch, but as so often happens in these sagas, this is intended to dispatch him because the road to get to her is somehow impassable. Now, where exactly she is a little unclear. Reading between the lines in Grógaldr and Fylsvinnsmál, she might not even be in the realm Midgardr, where humans live. She's guarded by a Jotun, or so-called giant or anti-god, suggesting she may even be in Jotunheimar, the home of the god's enemies. But it's really not very clear. At any rate, she's difficult to reach. I'm just going to cover Grógaldr in this video, but for those of you who need the spoiler or need the reassurance, Svipdagur does eventually find Menglóð, and they do live happily ever after. Alright, so here is Grógaldr in all 16 stanzas. I'm going to read it in Old Norse with my English translation following. The pronunciation that I use in Old Norse is, by the way, reconstructed 1200s pronunciation, not identical to the modern Icelandic pronunciation that's usually used for Old Norse today. Alright, enjoy Grógaldr. Stanza 1, and this is Svipdagur the son speaking. Vaki thu Gróa, vaki thu góð kona, vekek þig deura dura, ef þú það mand að þú þín móg beðir til kumbldisjar koma. Wake up, Gróa, wake up, good woman. I wake you from the doors of the dead. If you remember that you asked your son to come to the stone pile that marks your grave. What nu ant, this is the mother speaking now, minum engasuni, hverju ertu nu bolvi borin? Þú þó móður kallar til moldar komin og ljóð heimum liðin. What is happening to my only son? What curse do you carry when you call to your mother who has come to the dust and passed from the world of song? Now, world of song, I'm translating ljóð heimum that way. It's also be actually plural, worlds of song, homes of song. Obviously, she's referring to the world of the living. Ljóð could actually even be an archaic word for people, so homes of people, but ljóð more typically means song, so I think it's more interesting to see it as reflecting the joyousness of the living, right? She has left the places where the living gather together in song and other positive things. She's just in her grave. The Old Norse afterlife is very physical, and often hell or the afterlife is simply represented as being in one's grave. He responds, Ljótu leikborði skeut fyrir mikinn lefi sakona. Sú faðmaði minn fóður. Þar bað hon mig koma kvemt kíveit móti menglóðu. The deceit working woman made an unfair play against me, the one who embraced my father, when she told me to go where no one knows the path, to menglóð. Now, by the way, the interesting metaphor of her playing against him like in a table game, a leikborð, is used in the Danish and Welsh version of the story too. So that's a compelling reason to think there's a common root between all these versions. She responds, Longer for, langeru farvegar, langeru manamunir, ef það verður að þú þín vilja bíðar og skeikar þó skuld að skopum. The journey is long, the roads are long, the longings of men's lives last long. If it one day so happens that your will is fulfilled, and skuld lets your fate take its course. Skuld, of course, is one of the three Norns. Her name means ought or should. And the Norns, of course, are the three goddess-like figures that determine fates. Stanza 5. He responds, Galdra þú mer gal, þú góðir eru, bjarg þú móðir megi, og vegum allar hygg ek at ek verða múna, þykjum ek til ungar afi. Cast spells on me, spells that are good. Mother, save your son. I think otherwise I'll die on the road, and I'm too young a man. Before she gets into her 9 spells, of course it's 9 in Norse mythology, this is a good place to insert a quick word from my sponsor. All right, in stanza 6, Gróa the witch, who is the only speaker for the rest of the poem, begins reciting her 9 spells upon her son. Þann gelek þér fyrstan, þann kveða fjölnýtan, þann gól rindi ranni, að þú of oxel skjótir því þér attal þykir, sjálfur leið þú sjálfan þig. I cast a first spell on you. They say it's useful. Odin cast it on Rindr. Rani is one of Odin's hundreds of names. That you'll cast over your shoulder what seems evil, and you will lead yourself. Þann gelek þér annan, ef þú orna skald vilja laus og vegum. Urðar lokur haldi þér ollum megum, þú og sinnum ser. I cast a second spell on you. If it happens you get lost on the road, the songs of Urður will keep you no matter which direction you travel. Stanza 8. Þann gelek þér in þriðja, ef þér þjóðor falla at fjórlótum. Horn og rúður snúisk til heljar meðan, en þverri fyrir þér. I cast a third spell on you. If great rivers threaten your life, Horn and the rúður will be turned toward hell, and their beds dry for you to walk. Horn and Rue, there are apparently rivers he has to cross. The names are otherwise unknown. But again, remember, she's preparing him for a very long, difficult journey, so that would make sense in context. Stanza 9. Than gelek there in fjorda, ef thik fjonder standa, gorvir o golgvegi. Hugur þeim hverfi til handa þér og snúisk þeim til sota sevi. I cast a fourth spell on you. If your enemies stand ready to attack you on the road to the hanging tree, their minds will go into your hands, their thoughts will turn to peace. Than galek þér fymta, ef þér fjóttur verður borin at bóglimum, Grógaldr lætek þér fyrleg of kveðin og stykker þó los af limum en af fótum fjóttur. I cast a fifth spell on you. If chains are brought to tie your hands, I'll let a freeing spell be spoken on your limbs. And the lock will fall from your arms, the chain will fall from your feet. Those of you familiar with Odin spells at the end of Havamal may recognize a similar motif there. Of course, some similarities in many of these spells, but even a similar last line, and of course the meter Galdralag, a modified form of the Ljóðaháttr meter used for talking about magic spells. Stanza 11. Than gel ek þér in seta, ef þú o sjó kymur meira en minn viti. Logan og logar gangi þér í lúðar saman og ljó þér frið drjúgrar farar. I cast a sixth spell on you. If you come to a sea greater than men know, calm winds and calm seas will spin around you and lend all your pathways peace forever. Stanza 12. Than gel ek þér in sjónda, ef þik sökja kymur frost á fjalli hó. Hrafa kúluði megið þínu holdi fara, og heldit lík at liðum. I cast a seventh spell on you. If it happens you meet frost on a high mountain, no frostbite will fall on your flesh, your body will keep all its limbs. Stanza 13. Than gelek þér in óta, ef þik úti nemmur nót ó nívelvegi. At því fyrr megi þér til meins gjöra Kristin dáð kona. I cast an eighth spell on you. If night falls on you outdoors on the hillway, it will lessen the harm that may be done to you by a dead Christian woman. Now, Nívelvegur is what I'm translating hellway here. The reason I'm translating it that way, Vegur is road. Nível originally means something like darkness or fog, but it is used in an alternative name of hell, the realm of the dead, Nívelheimr. Since she's talking about a dead woman, and she's dead herself, it's possible that Svipdar's path is going to lead him through the world of the dead, and that's why he particularly needs protection from a dead woman. Now, why he particularly needs protection from a dead Christian woman is an interesting question that there's no context here to help us resolve. But, you know, watch out for those dead Christian women. Stanza 14. Than gelek þér níunda, ef þú við in nadgófga orðum skiptir jótun. Móls og mannvits se þér og minni og hjarta gnóa of gevit. I cast a ninth spell on you. If you exchange words with the spear-wielding Jotun, giant or anti-god, you will have enough speech and wisdom on your memory and heart. And of course, in Fjolsvinnsmál, the following poem, he does talk to a Jotun or giant who guards his lover Mengloth. I wonder if the microphone is picking up this woodpecker right next to me. Stanza 15. Far þú nú eva þarst þér fóra þykir, og standit þér mein fyrir múnum. Og jarðfostum steini stóð ekki innan dúra meðan ek þér galdra gól. Now, never go where the path is impassable, and may no curse stand between you and your desires. I stood within these doors on an earth-rooted stone, while I spoke spells upon you. And the passageway to the grave, or the door to the grave mound, is often represented as the doors to hell. So she's standing in the doors of her own burial mound, speaking outwards to her son. The concluding stanza, stanza 16. Móður orð ber þú mógr heðan og lót þér í brjósti búa. Því noga heil skal þú of aldar hafa, meðan þú mín orð of mant. Carry your mother's words from here, my son, and let them dwell in your heart, for you'll have enough luck throughout your lifetime while you remember your mother's message. And with that, presumably, Gróa, the witch, sinks back into her grave, into the world of the dead and hell, and her son, Svipdagar, fortified by her magic, continues on his way. Well, from the beautiful Rocky Mountains in gorgeous Colorado, I'm wishing you all the best.